All right, so welcome back. This is Kivumbi 2017, and this conversation is just getting better. So we've put two more people inside it, and allow me to introduce those two people. It's none other than Anthony Buluma, who is the CEO of KYPA. It's good to have you here with us. As well as Newton Babiro, who is a political author. He's the gentleman, rather, behind the Raila conspiracy. It's so good to have you guys here with us. Allow me to just jump straight into this conversation of the posters. We're going to come back to one specific question that I asked earlier, and I'd want to know your thoughts on that. But the poster issue. And Susan, I want you to really be the first one to answer this one, MUTHIORA as well. The issue of posters, fine. During campaign period, we saw the posters up to, my goodness, to some point, they were even being hanged on leaves. That's to the environmental extent we went to. And now we are asking you guys to pull down your posters. Susan, have you done that?
Yes, I did. I kicked off the process on Tuesday. So we should be done by probably tomorrow or Sunday. Yeah, so I think people should take responsibility for their own posters. If you put up your posters, make sure you remove them because they really look bad after the elections. And so we have to take responsibility as leaders. And I think that's something that is really lacking from the leadership in our country, because we end up thinking that we don't have to do something. You know, it's like we're above the law or something. So a few people should do it and others shouldn't, which is wrong. And so everybody should take responsibility. I expect the president to do that as well. I expect all of them to do it.
We saw Sonko doing it. There were also a few
and I
comments
commend
online.
Him for that, actually, and Boniface Mwangi as well.
Boniface Mwangi, yes, and we could also have those cover shots right now. But apart from Boniface, there was also guys online. I saw that a lot. People asking them, could you now pull down your posters? I mean, it's after the campaign period with Yura. Have you guys done the same thing?
We were running a green campaign, surprisingly.
Nice.
You'll go anywhere.
It's a thing.
Yes, it is. Right now, every Kenyan knows that Dr. Kaluyu and MUTHIORA were running, and we were able to get our message out there without having to print a single poster. You see, the poster thing is so crazy. Sometimes in a bus stop, if you are stationary for too long, someone could plaster a poster on you. It got to a point where there was no more space. People should reinvent how they reach the masses. And right now, the digital space is available.
True.
Let's utilize that. Let's do banners. And I actually encourage those banners that are still hanging around, take them and use them for carpets at home. Let's get the environment to be what it should be.
I like that. Like that. I mean, Anthony, first of all, as the CEO of the Kenya Youth Parliament Association, what is it that you guys have done, or what have you done as the CEO to make sure that youth, young people, are empowered, especially now that since that is your specific docket?
Thank you, first of all, for having me in this show. Straight to what you're asking, I think, first of all, is to say that while I was following the conversation that was ongoing, my good friend here actually pointed out names of individuals in my association who've done a remarkable work that has actually spoken for themselves. Senator Martha Wangari is an executive member of KYPA. Sakaja Johnson is the chairperson. So essentially, our work was to demonstrate to Kenyans that if young people are given an opportunity, they can do an amazing job, which we've done. One, we've introduced serious amendments into the laws of this country, from Public Procurement Act, where we literally entrenched, which was formerly a directive, the 30% procurement law, into it's now law. And Parliament has a bearing onto it. It's able to monitor and oversight the implementation of this particular law. So soon you'll actually be seeing us follow up with ministries to ensure that young people are actually getting these opportunities. We've done amendments on the Health Act. This was after an interaction with the young people at the university level, the student leaders. You know, they've been going on strikes every now and then. KYPA intervened, mediated between members of parliament, the executive, and the student leaders. And we were able to identify the gaps that existed under the higher education norms board. Part of it was inclusion of the students even into the management of the board, which we tried to negotiate, but due to legal barriers, it was not possible. But having said that, I think what is important is that people need to understand KYPA is the avenue that has opened up the gates of parliament to the youth of Kenya. A lot of us, either we got to parliament when we were in high school just to basically sit at the gallery and see how things flow. But today, early this year, we had the first ever legislative summit that allowed young people to directly interact with the leadership of parliament at the speaker's level, the clerk, and you can name them.
All right.
And this interaction has actually given birth to new things. This time round, when the MPs will be getting their induction, there would be a specific session, like an entire day set aside, to specifically get inducted on how to interact with youth issues. I think for me that is a landmark achievement.
Right.
That is part of what we pride ourselves, and we hope that the new members of parliament, of which I think it's a significant number, we're still working on the figures, will be able to take this to the next level. Most of them, we've given them motivation, and they've been able to even do a lot of work in their constituencies. If you looked at the last ratings that were done on CDF, best CDF management, the young members of parliament were number 1 to 5, top 5.
Anthony, you seem to be speaking very confidently. I mean, is that the same confidence that you have with this new blood, with this new young leadership that we're going to see in Kenya's youngest parliament?
It is the same confidence because I don't expect anything less of them. The truth of the matter is that their predecessors have set a precedence and a standard that they can only live up to. You know, Sakaja having sponsored like 4 bills. We have Senator Martha having done 4. We have, like a list of members of parliament who've done quite a significant number of bills and that are now laws. So I think what we expect of the newcomers is just to do more. If possible, let them double it to 8 bills.
Newton, Newton, what if, I mean, you're a political author, so you've had your eyes on the political scene for a while. What if these young politicians don't do what Anthony is clearly very confident about, doing double, doing more? What if? Then what happens?
Okay, I don't think if the current young politicians who are elected can disappoint us as youth. They have a lot of passion, and they've been, this is something nearly all young person is young out to. And if you look at the way they were voted, they had a highest number of passion. People are more passionate about them than any other person. You see, myself, I was supporting another party, but when it reached a time when I had to vote for senator, I voted Sakaja. I was very passionate about it.
Hey,
so you are voting based on leadership and not even the
yes,
party?
I was not voting 6Ps or what. I was just voting for a leader who I really like. So I really, when I saw Sakaja's name, I said, I have to give him an opportunity now to be a senator. And
now Zilantoy knows what to do.
Wacha nikukat short kidogo. Mimi nakuuliza, is this the type of election unaweza penda kudocument in a book, and why? Because sahi bado kuna disputes kwa court. Umesikia story ya petition, umesikia story ya deadline, umesikia lineup ishatajwa, umesikia do yenye watu washaanza kulipwa. As in, is this the type of elections unaweza kachini useme mazejo unaweza chora book kuhusu stuff?
Great, that is perfect. Let me say something philosophically. Political tragedies in the world doesn't start because there is right and wrong. They start because there is a conflict between 2 rights. That conflict is always very passionate when weak is very incompetent and strong is reckless. This situation that we are having in the country right now, where you're finding the strong is very incompetent and the weak is very reckless, can really make one of the best. And I'm seeing, I'm seeing a great trajectory, which especially in my writing skill and my compilation, which can really make part of the great history. But let me mention something, which I don't want to leave here without mentioning. If you look at what is now making the biggest political news, the petition. In my analysis, I have done research. I have realized that more than 10 countries where this kind of petition has been presented, Pakistan, Venezuela, Nigeria, Uganda, all this petition, and not to forget, United States of America, Gore versus Bush, all those petitions never passed. It will be a big surprise to see if this petition passes. And let me just say something. If this petition passes, get validated, Kenya will go in 2 books. 1, straight to Guinness Book of Records. and two, Kenya will make history together with Australia, which 2 days ago invalidated an election which was done. But let me say this, just to conclude. If these two gentlemen, the president and the deputy, almost made ICC to collapse,
System karibu ikrash.
do you think that a local court here in Kenya can stop them from winning an election?
Okay, sawa. Unajua elections ni elections ni day moja, but hizi vitu zingine zofuatana later on, si ndio? Mimi nataka kujua, as a youth, do you feel we live in fear and not in hope? Kwa sababu watu wengi walianza kupreach peace mapema wakiogopa nini? Vita. Na saa hii watu wabongi juu ya justice, watu wanaongea juu ya peace. So ebu niambie wewe una feel aje kuhusu story? Babia tulia mtu.
I really, you know the reason why, you know the reason why I'm feeling that? We are a country of 40 million people who are a victim of peace worship. Why should we worship peace so much?
Susan, you're laughing. I want to hear from her because she was running for
We are
senatorial
worshiping
position.
peace so much. Look.
Have you lived in a war?
Look, let me say
Have you
this.
lived in a war? Just answer that. Have you lived in a war? You haven't. Hush.
Look,
That's it. That's why I worship
Watu wa
peace.
Mungu,
I
wacha
don't
pressure,
discover
wacha
what a war
tuulize.
feels like.
Susan, wacha
Susan.
tusikie unasemaje?
I don't discover.
You know, I think he has a point. To some extent, he does have a point. Because in our attempt to keep peace, we forget what the issue is. We don't address the issues. And so many times, I'm not saying that the election was rigged or whatever. I'm not saying all these things. But you see, we are even afraid for people to go to court because we want to keep the peace. And yet, probably there's an issue that needs to be fixed. Probably there's something that needs to be addressed. And so, yes, I mentioned this before, that this is as a result of a lot of things that happen over a long period of time. It has a little to do with the elections. And so once we start addressing issues and leave peace, love, and unity alone, we start addressing issues and talk about justice, then we'll have actually moved on as a country.
Okay, I want to hear from Shiro because you are very passionate. But before I do so, let me add something. Because Michael on Twitter, you say fresh leadership can only be realized if we young people start influencing fresh ideologies without pleasing these political demigods.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
think
Truth of
to
God.
that extent, he's very accurate, and I think that's part of what we've been trying to preach. KYPA is a forum for, politicians from across the political divide. You have a chairman who's TNA by then. You have a secretary general who's ODM by then. So we tried to bring out this new kind of a thinking because our conviction is the significant problems we face will never be sorted with the same thinking that caused that problem. So you must adopt a new thinking. And I think that's what she's trying to bring out. I don't think Kenyans are exactly afraid of violence or whatever people are saying. I mean, in 2007, we went out to the streets and people fought. It's not like I think Kenyans are mature as compared to other democracies. This is the only country where as president can actually concede. Uhuru in 2002 had to concede to Mwai Kibaki.
Right.
When Mzee Moi had options of, like saying, whatever the case, I still am in charge, That is the level of maturity we are dealing. So I don't think it's accurate to actually portray us as a country that is afraid of violence, of
Allow me to interject. Let us talk about the Kenya we know. The Kenya we know is one where violence is not something we are used to. We had an episode.
I think
I was part
will
of
rise
it.
to defend this.
I was part of it. I
Let's
suffered.
hear.
And I know of victims of violence. So I'll tell you something. You want justice? That's okay. We'll have justice. But without peace, there is no chance that even that justice will be done. So whatever we do, let's worship peace. Because that's how we'll be able to get the justice that we need.
Let me say this. You guys are cowards. Not because you don't want peace, but because at time when your country needs you most, you are choosing to play the same tune that everybody's playing.
I disagree with you.
I
disagree with you.
And this is why, first of all, you do not know what tune we're playing, so that is an unfair statement to make. Secondly, and here's the thing, you don't look like somebody who's lived in a war. all of God's honesty. Somebody who romanticizes fighting like you are right now, and romanticizing the idea that we are. Yes, we are peace worshippers, and we are supposed to be. Here's the thing. Let me explain this. Let me explain it very, very, very systematically. The thing is this, I believe that there's more than one kind of peace. For me, I worship physical peace in this, because you've used the word worship, not that I actually bow down at the temple of physical peace, but I worship physical peace in this sense. We require the absence of physical violence, i.e. the absence of me or someone else taking a panga to clobber the other. We require that to be able to address the other violences that we endure as a country, like she is addressing. Like now, we have the violence of an election that is highly disputed. That is an emotional violence for a lot of people. It is also an ideological violence, okay? And it might be a violence against our children's futures. To be able to address that violence in court or on the streets or wherever it is we're going to do it, we need the presence of physical peace. War takes a momentum of its own. Physical violence takes a momentum of its own. If today I hurt you, your brothers and your sisters are all my enemies.
Susan?
That's a thing to think about.
Susan was...
Why can't I just have an opportunity?
Yes, no, I think he's putting it in a very... maybe disputed way. I don't know. I think he's not, probably what he's trying to say is, what is causing us not to have peace? What is that? That is what we need to deal with. In fact, we should not, yes, we must have peace. That one we must have. But we have to start dealing with the actual issues. I think for the longest time, we've shoved it under the rug. The whole time, we're always like, no, we are brothers and sisters. What is the issue? Why do you keep telling us that we are brothers and sisters? You have to tell us what the issue is and how we can fix it. So I think that is what is lacking, and probably that is what he's trying to say. Not that we fight. No, he's just saying we need to address the issue.
It's like work short for the longest.
Myself, let me say.
Tulia. Wacha tutarudi na juu each and every week si uenda mtaani, lakini this time round tumedecide ku get feedback kutoka WhatsApp. Wase kibao wametuma video zao hapa hivi ndani. Tunataka kucheki, wanataka kujua tulikuwa nauliza swali moja simple. What do they expect from the young leaders? Hawa sio wenye wamekuwa elected. Check his story.
So my expectations for these young elected leaders are, firstly, I'd want them to represent Kenya when they go there. Like right now we know Kenya needs democracy. So in whichever position they'll be in, they should ensure democracy is practiced fully, and they should do so themselves. And then secondly, I'd want them to represent the youth. Like make sure that the nation and their other colleagues there see that the youth actually have potential and we can actually lead this nation. Thirdly, I'd want them to represent their people, because most of these young elected leaders are MPs. So they should ensure and foresee that the issues in their constituencies have been addressed and there should be no neglection.
First, they need to know that they've been able to break from the norm that has always been there, where we get always the older people in political position. And so they need not necessarily to focus on the position that they've been given, but the work that comes along with that. I think if we can be able to bring the change or a difference, it will only because we have changed or shifted our focus from titles that we were given to the responsibilities that come along with that.
Serve the people without discrimination. 2, represent the youth in both houses. And 3, table bills that are intended to empower and grow the youth.
I want a leader who's going to be corrupt-free, a leader who's not going to be full of scandals. I don't see on TV they're doing nothing, always being investigated. 2, I want a leader who's going to take care of the rights of our women, our children, and my fellow youths. 3, I want a leader who's going to look at me straight in the eye and be, this is what I've managed to do, this is what I failed to do, so that together we may move forward, we may find a common ground.
In this 5-year term, keep the youth, your fellow youth at heart, because you are our voices in the parliament. We cannot all go to the parliament and then be like, you guys, we want our rights to be defended. But that's your work. So people, you elected MPs, just do your work.
They should be able to unite all Kenyans through the Parliament and Senate as well, and that they should also table bills that are meant to better our lives as Kenyans, especially the youth.
We're really looking up to you to make the trend, make the beginning of a new era where we expect that you may bring up your standards up, and that we may raise up a country that is not corrupt and worth living for.
I expect them to do a lot on the ground, since they have come from the ground and they know the problems that the youth undergo each and every day. I also expect them to come out of their comfort zones. Let them not be tribal kind of leaders. Let them lead this country the way it's supposed to be led. Let them unite this country to be one. You know, I also expect them to borrow a thing or two from the mature leaders. Let them lead this country to prosperity. Let them not divide this country according to tribal lines.
Wow.
Nakwambia, it's hot in here.
I like the fact that we got now WhatsApp feedback, which was fantastic. We're going to be doing more of that here.
Leaders, young people want to know exactly what their leaders are going to put on the plate.
And you guys can always tweet us, right? You can tweet us, Silly and I just use the hashtag Kivumbi 2017 or soon Youth Cafe. And that's what we really want to do. That's why this platform is here for young people. Speaking of which, we need to sort of close up this conversation. We're going to have this same panel again, literally copy and paste. But for right now, we really need to close up this discussion. Shiro, I really want to hear from you because you're a businesswoman. What are your expectations, especially when it comes to empowering young people financially, economically, with this next parliament that we're going to see come in?
My wishes and my expectations are a little different. My wishes would be that with this new, especially a young parliament, we would look at manufacturing as a way to make sure that the youth, you know, continually get jobs and things like that. And so I would really be impressed if we could. Honestly, it would impress me. I know it's your job and I'm paying you as a taxpayer for you to do your job, but I'd be impressed if you actually did your job and, you know, expanded the manufacturing sector. You know, when Tuju was running, I think it was in 2013.
Right.
When Tuju was running and he said that if I give you a goat, and at the same time I empower you to make a pen, okay, let's say 5 goats, because the machine, you know. So if I give you 5 goats, and then with the same money, hypothetically, I empower you to make a pen, your goats can die, sijui nini, or your pens can lack market, but you've learned a new skill that you can transfer somewhere else. The goats, well, you've always been a shepherd, so to speak. And so I really hope that we can be able to support the manufacturing industry. I'm a manufacturer myself, so I'm being selfish in this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Muthiora, very quickly, what are your closing remarks?
I would like to urge the young leaders who were recently elected to know that the bar has been set so high by those who preceded them in the last parliament and senate. Let them take these opportunities seriously because should they do a good job, they will make the people believe in the youth even more. And they will be rewarded, like we have seen the senator for Nandi was promoted to be the governor now, and a lot of other success stories. So let's believe more in the youth. They have something to offer.
All right. Muthiora, thank you guys so much. Because of time, Anthony, will you be very quick?
Okay. Yes. I think first of all is to just tell Kenyans that we're living in one of the greatest countries in the entire universe where the little things you do count. The little opportunities you get, maximize on them, and Kenyans will always be willing to reward. Today, I've been approached by enough members of county assembly, especially in Nairobi, and they're calling on me, why don't you go for the Senate Speaker? Part of what Muthiora is talking about. When you do something incredible, Kenyans will always have something to reward. Right. So we must never tire to do that which is right, because time is always right to do
Speaking of time, we're going to have to cut this conversation short right now. But we always do this every single Friday. This is a platform where young people get to come and talk about the key issues that affect us. So we're going to have to say goodnight, but thank you so much. The conversation continues online. Make sure you use the hashtag Kivumbi 2017 because this is your election headquarters forum. And for now, we'll leave you with Betty Chalo. My name is ZINZI. KIBIKU. To have yourselves a lovely weekend.
Of course, and Brian Aseli, change ni kila siku mazijo, si Friday nights. Big up.